Hey everybody, it's me Fergoli, and we are your hosts, Pedro, Superior Buds, and Fergoli. It's your favorite late night hashcast here every week at 11 p.m. Friday night Eastern Standard Time, streaming on YouTube, Twitch, X, after the show on Spotify, YouTube Music, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. I don't know, all those fun places you can
Everywhere,
find us after the
everywhere.
show. We're seeing all your comments here on the back end, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, or X, whether you're on Pedro's channel, whether you're on Superior Bud's channel, whether you're on Fergoli's channel, or maybe even on Polare's channel. Welcome, guys, and cheers to the 16th episode of Variables.
Fucking
Cheers,
16
everybody.
already. 16.
Oh,
Let's give Pele a quick little introduction here in case people in the chat may not know who he is. Brian, my man, Pele Polare, man, been in contact with me for quite a few years now. I think I remember the very first thing you did was the cooler, your wash machine jackets, I guess you would call them, and then he gave me a couple custom ones with the PGR logo on it. And then he's kind of progressed. He's made a solventless washing book, a solventless processing book that was put together from information compiled from all of us, from a lot of different hash makers out there. And then he started providing stuff for washing, all sorts of stuff. He's actually moved into washing machines and vessels and chilled everything. He's in the fucking game. So let's get into it. Brian, Pele, Polare, what's going on, brother?
Dude, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you jumped in with us, man. You kind of fit like a freaking puzzle piece in here, man.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, the variables are where it's at, dude. The details and the variables.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's kind of funny how naturally we get into the variables. Like we just start talking, and it's like, oh shit, there they are again.
Every time, man. Hey, Brian. So tell us, how did you get your start in this whole world of cannabis and hash? Like, what brought you to it? What gave you your start, and why are you still here now? What is what's keeping you here?
Oh man, it's just the love for the plant. I medicinally find benefits smoking. When I was a teenager, it was hard for me to get weed. I started growing my own weed. Realized I could pay a couple bills on the side doing that. So did that through college, moved to Cali, helped start a brand out there. And then when they went legal, I had my first kid. That was when hash was kind of first, solventless hash was starting to come along. I watched BHO and all that stuff happen, and kind of stayed back from it because I saw the dangers. And when the solventless, started dropping, that was when I was like, okay, now it's time for me to get involved and really dig my teeth in here. It's safe. The water hash was just the next step in evolution. And the science and the nerdy side of things, I really find, I really find that I enjoy digging into all those variables like you guys talk about so much. They're so important, and I just love to geek out on stuff. So being able to bring it all together and just continue pushing the boundaries. It's all I really focus on is just what's next. How do we improve? How do we take it to the next step?
So real quick, it sounds like you kind of got your start in California, but where did you get your start as a human being?
East Coast.
Okay. So you went all the way from East Coast to West Coast just for cannabis, or was there something else that kind of brought you out there?
Twofold. I grew up in Connecticut, small town, went to community college out here. It didn't work out. I went to a bigger college in Boston. That didn't work out. Got my first job in an office out in Cali. Took that job and got laid off after like 3 months. And my best friend, my best friend was
after moving across the country,
right?
Like
timing.
Drove my car out there. I had been busted like 3 times for weed, so I was like, let me take this job. I could grow weed on the side. I can
refuge.
Yeah, do what I want to do and spread my wings a bit and kind of experience life a little bit. And drove out there in my Honda
Yeah.
with some
So that's
seeds.
oh, okay. I
Yeah.
was gonna ask what you brought with you. So was it just some seeds? Is that kind of how you like what kept it going, or
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have like my own specific strains that I was growing. I wasn't
yeah,
like a big known grower on the East Coast. I was just doing my thing on the side. So when I got out there, that's when it really, when I started working with my buddy out there, he kind of took me to the next level of growing and got me into the Kush and, yeah, all the other great strains that were booming at the time out there in like 2000, I guess.
Oh, so you were like 2 years after, like the first state in the whole union when any sort of legal was in 1998 when California went legal medicinally. So you were like right on the cusp of it all.
Yeah, we rode MRSA for a while, that MRSA.
Okay.
And then when that kind of fell off, we, danced around a bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn. So what like so from there you move out to California, you've got an interest in cannabis, you kind of moved out there for another job that didn't kind of pan out. So was it just the culture out there that kind of like, gave you that door, the opportunity, or what kind of like really just sucked you into this wonderful world that we all just live in and can't seem to get out of?
Yeah, I keep mentioning my buddy. I don't usually name drop, but he really pushed me into it, and he made me basically like his protege. Like
Okay.
everyone else that he had under his wing kind of went off and did their own thing or let him down in one way or another. And I was like a college educated kid. I wasn't even a kid, man. I was like in my 30s, but I was responsible. I showed up. He's like, "You're the guy I need on the team to help me get to the next level." So it was like, all right, teach me how to grow at the commercial level. I'll be the guy in the shop holding it down. And that was what I did for like 5 straight years. I was just the shop foreman. I think had 40 something lights at one time.
Yeah.
So it was a good size little spot. And just the day-to-day grind,
That grind, man.
getting in with with the network, with the community, doing the sessions back in the day, doing the high times cups, seeing opportunities. Going to college, it's like, all right, you can take that route, but there's also this really new industry that has so much potential for growth. And if you're smart enough to like take that bull by the horns and wrangle it into a corner for yourself and really be able to set yourself up to succeed, there's huge potential for that, because it's so new.
You said you went to college. Did you graduate with a degree? Just get some experience that kind of like prompted you to kind of dive into it, or do you have like? I guess what I'm asking is, do you have like some sort of background that you could lead into this?
Yeah, my background is in science and in design. I went to an architectural college,
So
and
you're
I
an engineering
focused.
type, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay, just like about everybody on this panel,
yeah,
especially this guy right here.
good. I mean, I'm more of the designer and the imaginator guy, and I need those engineers like you guys to like
Okay,
take it to that next level. I'll
I
draw a
gotcha.
picture and be like, "This is what I want, and I want it to do this."
You make it work.
Yeah, come on, yeah. I'm
That's
like,
funny because I went to college for putting it on paper. I'm a draftsman.
Oh
man,
shit!
dude.
There you go.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that'd be a powerful group right there.
Yeah, no shit. No shit.
All right, so we've got the nerd down here, we've got the engineer down here, we've got the artist, if you will, over here actually drafting it. Wait, I thought you were the artist.
I don't know where he's at.
know.
I'm not the artist. I'm just drafting it. He's the fucking artist. I'm just putting it on paper.
I can't
Fair
even
enough.
draw
Right.
that well.
Good
I just have,
translation.
it's up here, and I'm
It's
like,
the napkin.
guys.
You've got napkin sketch
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
going.
And then they got official fucking plans.
Yep.
And then you've got
Plans,
the
then it
guy
comes to
actually
me.
making it happen.
Yeah, and then you got the guy who
me
I
that's just
refer
gonna sell
to.
it.
You got the guy who I refer to and ask questions to right over here.
And I get all the calls. Hey, man, this doesn't fucking do shit.
Right.
We made what
So-
you wanted, but it sucks.
So what made you jump from flour to concentrates?
That was I blame that on my son. It's all his fault. I couldn't I couldn't be the shop guy anymore because my son was there. So I kind of had to step back, and right at the same time, it was weird how it all happened. Like I was trying to have a kid, and all the stress I think was like preventing that from naturally happening. So as soon as that shop kind of closed, and I was staying home more, I wasn't going into the stressful environment anymore. My wife got pregnant like that, and then they were like, yeah, and then
we can extrapolate all kinds of things from that.
yeah, and it was like, do you want to come and work and be the shop guy still? And I was like, I can't, and I just stepped back. I had a couple plants at home, and like I said, that was when we started just putting some weed in the water. And I think some of the first videos I watched of people doing that was of Pedro, and I'm reaching out to him like, is this okay to do?
It's that first time. I think we've talked about this a couple of times. The first time, back when we were growing weed, growing herb, growing cannabis back in the day, man, that was what you had. I mean, you could go to your dude and grab it, but my God, I know back in the day, man, when I was trying to get a good bag of beasters, even it was fucking $50 for an eighth,
Yeah.
So man, I'm gonna start growing my shit.
Yeah.
And then you got your crop, right? You're all happy, you got your harvest, and now dump it in a fucking big old bucket of water and then beat the shit out of it. And then, I'm hoping this is going to fucking work. I see you out there, Bubble Man. I hope this is going to fucking work.
Yeah, I see you guys. Yeah. And at the time, like BHO was going strong. So no one was trying to give up material. All the growers were still homies, but they were like, I'm not giving you my shit, man. I'm going to go and blast it and make money. Yep. There's some trim. Fuck with the trim.
I know, right? It wasn't that the most ridiculous thing. I mean, I guess you got to get it going. You got to prove that you can do something, right? I'll tell you what. On that note, I've pulled some great fucking rosin and concentrates out of some fucking trim. But you gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's like where I started my hashing career, was making trim rosin. I did that for like 2 years.
Well, let me ask you guys both, maybe all three of you then. With BHO, I'm the BHO guy, Brian, just in case you didn't know.
No hard feelings.
No, of course. I mean, if you did, I'd just kick you off. No, I'm just kidding.
there's buttons for that.
There's buttons for that, Pedro says. No, and I love my craft, and I respect both for sure. And I think there's a reason to do either or.
Yes.
Whether it be craft or commercially, there's certainly reasons for both. But when it comes to trim, that's something I never thought I would, or expect to be sent to a hash maker, a bubble hash maker, right? We'll get to the hash definitions shortly, but
oh my God, here we go again.
So what? My I guess my question is like, is it fire in, fire out, or like what Pedro's kind of leaning into? Is it a certain level of skill that actually can take, like, what is basically, I don't know, what I think most of us would consider probably a food grade product, which is trim, and turn it into like a quality dabbable hash product? Like, what does the process look like for that? And is it really worth your time?
Who do you want to start?
I want Brian.
That's what I was thinking too. That's what I was thinking. I kind of want him to start too.
I was pointing right at you, saying Pedro. It's fire in, fire out, and it's also knowing how to hone your craft. Trim is that thing that can be fucked up pretty easily if you don't. Yeah, the variables, and it is fire in, fire out. Like, I can't take some old bag of trim and turn it into magically, sprinkle some fairy dust on there and make it fire. That's not how it works. There's no.
You can turn it into rosin.
Yeah. I don't know if I would want to dab it if it was old.
You can turn it into rosin.
But you could go and, and that's where, like you said, BHO has its place. Now I can go and clean it up and make that into like a viable product that someone might want to actually. I'm not a
proponent of CRC, but yes, we can polish goods now.
Or, like some other product that you can use that material for. Yeah. It would be
useful. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to put lipstick on the pig, just kind of. You know, if you
I mean,
make
I
bake,
don't. There might be people out there that do, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
I'm
that,
sure there's
I'm not
that
guy.
fucking. I'm sure there's those people. There's a group out there for everything.
yeah, I mean, you'd be better off making bacon and pork chops and
Amen, dude.
appropriate sellable products.
Amen.
Yeah, there you go.
Go
That looks
Is
like
that
an
grill them.
appropriately sellable product.
A
is that
little that's a
trim?
little garlic punch left over.
It's not trim rosin.
No, fuck no.
Oh, I thought you were busting out.
No, Jesus creaminy.
Just showing
I
us
didn't
how.
I didn't know I was insinuating that. No. On that note, I mean, I'll go there with that. Yes, fire in, fire out. If you want fire out, you can absolutely take an old bag of anything. Well, not anything, but cannabis generally, as long as it contains trikes, and you can turn it into hash and you can turn it into rosin. Again, we're talking about polishing a turd, and what level of the turd it is before we start polishing it. But if it's good trim, when I say good trim, I mean from a good plant, from a healthy plant, from a mature plant, from generally a plant that gives a lot of hash. So if we get good sugar leaf trim, and I'm not talking about the big fan fucking leaves, because that you're just not going to get anything viable from that. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and then if you know what you're doing with the variables of washing, yeah, you can turn some fire trim into some pretty goddamn good rosin.
So
Yeah,
what do those steps look like? Because for me personally, on a BHO level, I mean, my process doesn't change. It doesn't matter if it's trim. It doesn't matter if it's fresh frozen, the top grade A, just nothing but tops, right? It doesn't matter. It's all the same to me. It's literally fire in, fire out. So one of the steps, though, that I take in my process, regardless of what the material is keeping things super, super, super cold. And that tends to leave things like terpenes or like fats, lipids, chlorophyll, and other things behind that tend to darken up the color. When it comes to something like a trim run that maybe is a little bit more matured and maybe a lot of amber heads, are you kind of just at that point that it is what it is and you're getting some darker hash, or is there anything you can do to kind of blonde it up, if you will?
no blonding.
Yeah. No, there's generally no CRC tech. The only
Properly cleaned before you press it.
Yeah, the only color changing you're gonna, and I gotta take this dab before too long before it just falls off my fucking dab tool.
It reminds me though.
I keep turning it over here because it's so fucking sloppy,
Well, do your dab.
dripping like water.
I got a story about you from a few years back where you had a bag that you were given that had been outside and you were told to wash it.
Oh man.
And you washed it and you freeze dried it and it produced, but it was like you said, it was what was it like? Terpenes were basically gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably tastes like dry hay.
Yeah. But it was
More
definitely a product. I mean, you can get the trikes that were there and get the oil that was there.
Yep, absolutely.
It's really what you were saying for Gurley. The process is just less agitation. You don't want to shake it. Because it's more brittle. Older stuff it's easier to fuck it up.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest variables for sure. I would say prior to that, one of the biggest variables is how people are trimming, how they're handling their trim. What are they doing with it? Are they handling it such that it's or with the knowledge that it's going to a hash maker, or are they just throwing in the garbage, stepping on it, and then picking it up and giving it to you later? You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, because I think everyone should harvest like they're harvesting for a hash maker. And what does that look like, Pedro?
I mean, gently harvesting gently, and making sure that your trim material that you're going to be using is going into, preferably for me, going into a garbage or a plastic bag of some sort. And then immediately, as soon as you can, get it into the freezer. And now that the process has changed a little bit from half dry to now we start getting into, are we taking the whole run? So I guess we have to make the assumption that we're taking the whole run to flour and then just using the trim for hash. The problem with that, now we're getting into more variables as to when we're going to take it, what we're taking it for.
Mm-hmm.
If we have dried flour and we carefully trim it, send it to the rosin or the hash and rosin maker, number one, you've got dried trim.
Yeah.
So regardless of how good it is, there's how good your turd is. You've got dried trim, you know. So
100%.
does that mean horrible? No, but it results in definitely a little bit more
just
CBD.
different. It's just
CBDN.
different.
Yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
if we're going to be taking a plant fresh frozen doesn't get trimmed. So it's just you're all in. When I'm doing the half dry, well, when I'm doing anything, I'm just all in anymore. I think I just harvested and left some flour on a hanger for Dizzy to trim up because she needed some flour. But other than that, I don't even think I have any flour on this desk. So when I go and harvest, I'm all in, period. So the processes, I mean, they are a little bit different depending on what we're doing, you know. And I guess the only time we really are trimming is when we're taking our flour to flour and then just making hash and rosin out of the rest of it.
Same, because I've got to ask, for those of you on this panel and in chat and that are watching this later, throw it in the comments below. If I'm harvesting for fresh frozen because I'm either making live resin BHO or I'm making live rosin or something to that effect, everything that I trim off the plant is now, it's not a viable product, right? So if I'm taking it off and you know, bucking it away from what I'm putting into that fresh frozen harvest, that is literally something that what I would consider as waste. So if it's not getting bucked off, it's probably got trichomes on it. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trimming as aggressively when I harvest for fresh frozen versus when I'm trimming for flour.
Right.
And when I trim for flour, I have a lot of leftover that personally that it gets thrown right back in the freezer and gets thrown into the food grade run, right? Versus if I'm trimming, quote unquote, for fresh frozen, there's nothing left over because anything that with trichome coverage on it is getting put into that freezer and getting extracted in that run, you know.
I call
It's
it
just
trimming
like a
versus manicuring. You know, you manicure when you're going to flour. That's where you're getting in there. You're really cleaning it up because you want the prettiest looking bud.
I was going to go the opposite way with that, Superior. I was thinking
really?
manicuring was what I would do for fresh frozen and trimming is what I do on an end product, but you're saying the opposite.
Yeah, that's how I've
And
always.
I think you're right. I've got to train my brain to think that way, I think.
That's what's always just been in my head whenever people
Yeah.
ask. Because I said I stopped manicuring weed like 10 years ago, something.
Yeah.
Like even when I was doing it for myself, I'd never trimmed like dispensary bud. You know, my trim was always.
I almost think you could have like a lot of these commercial type people do. They almost have like they have a trim, right? Like they trim everything and then they have like a final manicure on it. I almost feel like we're not really doing either of those things. If I'm harvesting for fresh frozen, it almost seems like I'm just bucking. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You are.
Yeah.
For me, even when I do my half dry, it's harvest then buck. And part of the harvest is getting rid of anything that doesn't have trikes. And I mean, and that includes the tips of a lot of the sugar leaves and stuff. I'll trim that up, if you will. But everything that I'm trimming off is not viable to me, except for compost pot, you know, or more just mulch in my system. Same thing for fresh frozen. Now, if we're talking about going to flour and then trimming and this and that, I mean,
just doesn't happen
done
enough.
that. Been there, done that. I just don't do it anymore.
Exactly, right?
I'd save so much time not having to sit there and trim everything down.
Dude, that's why I try to tell commercial growers. It's like, listen, guys, you don't have enough room in your dry room because surprise, surprise, you guys didn't plan for a big enough dry room when you built this commercial facility. You know, like everyone. Guess what? You probably got enough room for freezers and some vac sealed bags to throw all your fresh frozen in. So just take that route. It's cutting off 2 weeks of your time. You can immediately ship that product out of your facility to a processor. It's coming back as a, you know, hopefully a grade A product. Like it's just something totally different. Kind of throws off, you know, breaks up the logistical chain of things. And you don't have to be sitting on so much like inventory, you know?
Yeah, and the inventory shelf space is smaller. The shelf life is longer. I mean, everything about the final product is just better to have.
It's just better. It's just better.
It's just getting it down to concentrate. Once once I was growing at home and recreational hit, I've always grown, and I've grown big. But once rec hit and we were told 12 plants, I grew 12 plants every time.
Yeah.
I was flowering 12 plants. And then I ended up with 3, shelving units full of jars. Like, I can't
Mhm.
stand all this. This is stupid.
Well, now in Michigan, there's literally no limit. It's just a misdemeanor. You can grow 10,000 plants, and it's just.
Oh,
a misdemeanor.
really? I did not know they changed that.
I mean, hey, I'm not your lawyer,
Right,
but,
right. I'm not the lawyer here. We got
but I'm
those
pretty
coming
sure
up.
as of this year, it's just a misdemeanor to grow as many
Ask
plants
my
as you want
lawyer,
because-
Chat GPT.
Yeah, right. I'm
Yeah.
gonna step away real quick for a quick second so I can actually enjoy a smoke while I'm in this hotel.
Yeah.
But I want to hear Pelle's answer onto, what is the most ideal way to harvest for fresh frozen? For what if we're trying to maintain the essence of that plant that we're growing and put it into someone's dab rig through the process of, extracting solventless hash. What does that look like from a grower's standpoint, not from a processor's, from a grower standpoint? Because I think as a processor, this is my biggest challenge is getting a grower to understand the best way to harvest it for me. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the best I can with what you grew. But if you give it to me at the subgrade level of what I'm trying to do with it, then you're not helping. I'm trying to give you the best product. So for you, as like, if you were a grower, what would be your ideal kind of harvest process? I'll be right back.
One branch at a time, one bud at a time. Yeah.
Then my brain started going to, well, are we talking about a personal grow or are we talking about a commercial grow?
Yeah.
Right.
I
Because
mean,
there's big differences.
yeah. And I would say, like, first question I would ask myself would be, what product am I trying to make at the end of the day? Am I trying to make full melt? Like, if it's full melt, then I'm going to obviously go to the 10th level of, preservation. I'm going to be in there with, fine gloves. And if anybody's got anything on their hands, I'm slapping them on the hand. You're touching the buds too much. One thing I would always check is when I would come in the room and in the trim room, if people have a lot of resin on their fingers and on their scissors, it's like, okay, we have to have a talk. You're being too aggressive with the buds. And it's even if finger fucking it. Yeah. It's even more important now with solvent. That was just for flower. I was like, dude, you're fucking my flower up. I grew it for 3 months. And now for solventless, it's like even more important.
Yeah. That's
so first
thing we're after.
Yeah. Ask what product are you going to make? And then I always try to do my best with the material every time. If the farmer's going to do this process, then you kind of have to trust that he's going to do his best as well. But my preference would be, let me come in and do it myself. I'm not going to charge you any extra. I'd rather just do it myself than have you do it and fuck it all up. I'll do it myself. I'll know I'll get a better product for myself, make more money for myself and for you. I'm not just thinking myself.
I think
So
there and
you
again,
started to say branch by branch when you, so like taking a branch off, completing the entire process and getting that branch into the freezer then, right?
Yeah, if you go in and you chop that base of that plant and you hang the thing upside down, you drag it out of there, you're raping the whole.
Yeah, who the fuck does that?
I mean, I've seen crazy things.
God.
Yeah, and
that's that is not knowing what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, you just and
period.
Don't
for flour, for extracts, for anything. You don't know what you're doing.
Don't know what you're doing. Don't vacuum bag down your shit. You want to have like super gentle, laying the buds into the bag when you're bucking them in there. You're not pushing the bag down.
We buck them into big bins,
plastic bins,
20 gallon bins with the garbage bag strips over the top.
That's the way to do it. Nice and preserved. Yeah. Like when I first started watching people making solventless back in the day, one of the first people that I came on was Jungle Boys. Love to hate them, but they were going to the next level, dude, with those bins. And I was like, they're fucking chasing the quality. That's like when I was like, oh, these guys are thinking about it in a different way. They're not just bucking the shit into a bag. Have a little dry ice at the bottom of your bag too. helps if you're using those bins. Put some dry ice under the bag, and it'll help freeze the bud at the bottom as you're putting stuff on top. It doesn't crush it down. Yeah, man. There's so many little tricks. That looks
sitting
good.
sitting out there in the snow.
Oh, shit. Where are you? Where are you guys? It's cold there, huh?
He's of Michigan. Well, actually, I
No,
don't know.
he
Are you
went-
still
he
Michigan?
went
I'm down
Chicago.
Chicago way right now,
You're
but
down
yeah,
in Chicago. Down in the Chicago.
it's literally snowing on my keyboard right now.
Yeah, they're actually going to get more snow downstate. So I'm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I'm up where we're supposed to be buried in snow, and we've got an inch on the ground and nothing more. And they're going to get buried in the next week downstate, and we're going to get nothing.
It's so weird, the weather right now.
So I kind of want to jump in right there and answer a little bit there before we get into. I want to throw this back to Pelle here in a second. The big variable between my brain, because I've done both, is the commercial versus the personal aspect, you know. And from a grower's standpoint, growing, there should be absolutely no fucking difference whatsoever. The only variable at the end there would be when you harvest, but through the growing process, there should be absolutely no fucking difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
When it comes to the harvesting, generally, you know, on a personal level, I'm going to do it with myself or a couple of buddies, so it's very easy to keep an eye on everything and just kind of control everything. On a commercial level, you kind of got to go in, and unfortunately, you got to start making some concessions, because when you start talking about taking down hundreds upon hundreds of fucking plants, 500,000 grams in a fucking harvest, you know,
one branch at a time.
and you got to take it one branch at a time. So, and then if we throw in a half dry, fucking, that just, oh my God, blows the whole thing up. But you got to go in and you got to make some concessions, because they're not going to stand there and cut every bud off the fucking branch. It doesn't make dollars. It doesn't make sense, you know?
No.
So unfortunately, they do as the best they can with the bins and everything. Like, we've went through that. But one of the biggest things that I don't like in the bucking process is the automatic bucker.
Yeah.
Where they feed a branch into the machine and it just pops them off, you know?
That's
because like you're talking about with the hands, with the fingers, with the scissors and everything, you want to be as gentle as possible. You don't want to be just trying to pop those fuckers off, you know? When I saw that the very first time, it hurt me.
Oh, dude.
But I understand it's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah. So
you know?
the thing that I love about what you're saying is that in solventless, the guys that do that are going to have different products than the guys that do one bud at a time. And there's always going to be a room for the guys that do the high quality. And there's always going to be that space for the, you know, it's Bud Light and it's fucking Samuel Adams. It's like, there's always going to be that. And there's no like faking the funk. There's no like hiding it and then going, I'm going to CRC it and tell them it was fire in, fire out. But I just did a little bit of CRC. Come on, man, just be honest. And that's where like solventless is really just, you can't
lay it on the line.
Yeah, you can't bullshit us. It's like, it's the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. There's a lot of science and there's a lot of artistry.
And I think this all ties in my next.
Do it just right.
I think this all ties into my next question is, what is Polare? I think I need to
the French version.
What does Polare provide and why?
Oh yeah, dude. So the jacket
and where the fuck can we find you? Give that shout out real quick while we got a bunch of people in here.
Instagram, online, call my phone.
Pelle underscore Polare, Pelle dash Polare.
Pelle underscore Polare. That's my Instagram.
Polare? Why do I call it Polare?
Polare.
I've always said it. Yeah. Okay.
Like Polaris. I don't know.
The hashish, the Shogun from Hashish Inn pronounces it really, really good. He's got this Italian roll to it, man. Pelle Polare. And I'm like,
Polare.
That's perfect, man. I need to get you on the commercial.
Can you just record that real quick for me?
Yeah, it's Italian. So like, and my last name's Caldwell, and people have always fucked it up my whole life. And then I pick a name that's hard to pronounce for my business. What the fuck is wrong with me, dude? I should have picked something easier. But you know, the whole thing started from the jackets, and that whole reason the jackets came along was because I started washing trim, and I was like, how can I get a better quality product? And I stumbled onto the answer one night when I ran out of ice in my garage in SoCal, and I was like, how am I going to keep this water cold in this machine? I grabbed this pink shit that I had from Home Depot for the hot water heater and wrapped it around my machine, and I'm like, I kept it cold. Dope. I want to make something that's a little nicer than this pink shit. So that's my first product was the jacket that you got, Pedro. That was one of my first product. And that was how I unlocked like the whole ice free tech and got a much better product out of my trim without the ice in there.
Oh yeah.
I was actually looking through my photos, and back in May of 2020, I sent you dimensions of the 5-gallon washer. And then like 7 days later, you sent me my jacket.
Dude.
And then in August, I did a test out in my driveway where I filled it with ice and RO water, temperature, and I set the washer to run nonstop. And it took an hour and a half for the ice to even start melting.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Out in 80-degree sun. It was awesome.
It's one. Yeah, I did that test like when I first made the jackets. I was like, I gotta do a side-by-side ice bucket with the jacket and one without the jacket. And it works.
I've got the data for a washer with nothing, a washer with bubble insulation wrapped, and then your jacket.
Yeah.
That was what started the company, and then everyone was like, okay.
Dude, Superior Buds is the from my perspective, the only one that's a proponent of iceless, because he talks about it more than anybody else I know, and he talks about it in a way that is convincing. And to me,
made sense.
Yeah, to me, and this is coming from a BHO perspective, but a BHO perspective that is trying to produce the best possible product without CRC and these other contaminants is, let's not add any more contaminants. Even if that water is frozen from the same source of water that is going into that washer, like why mix up the variables if you can keep that temperature the same in the water? And the fact that you're able to keep that temperature below freezing without it being frozen because you're agitating it, that just makes sense to me. So like let's go down that road, like let's try to attack that in a way that we're separating trichomes without beating them up. Like that just makes more sense to me, from a purity standpoint.
I'm gonna piss on you guys in the shower and tell you that I still fucking use ice.
Oh, Pelle, you're muted, buddy.
That's all right. You are muted down there. Brian, you're muted. Brian, you're muted, bro. we cannot fucking hear you, man. There he is.
It was always a battle with guys that were using ice. It was like, I get it where you guys are. I was a student of the same education, or however you want to say it. I don't know the right acronym to put on there or whatever, but I thought I needed the ice too until I didn't have it, and I got a good yield, and I was like, okay, and the quality is even better. So the ice just isn't knocking off the heads. The cold water is keeping it cold. And then you break down the science like you guys are doing, and it just makes sense. Like why am I fighting
me was Frenchie saying we're not using the ice for the shearing factor. We're using the vortex of the water.
Yeah.
And for me, that just did it for me. I'm like, well, I don't need ice then. I can keep the water cold. That's easy enough. Once I went stainless. Once I went stainless. When I was in plastic, it was a no-go.
So what is that? Just the thermal capacity? Like what is the science behind
the way it transfers the cold through?
It holds it better, longer, or transfers it?
Steel,
both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steel won't transfer heat as quickly. It's not a heat loss transfer.
Right.
Material.
When you get it cold, it's gonna stay cold.
Higher R value, yeah. You get it cold, it stays cold.
So the reason for asking that is how much of the blood is smacking against the side of the steel as it spins around this vortex. I mean, and the reason I ask that is that enough to act as that ice? You know what I mean?
You don't need the vortex either.
Right.
You just need a little bit of
just the agitation.
Just
soft
like
motion.
Yeah, it's like your neck is fucking. Just imagine your neck is fragile, and someone just comes by and elbows you gently in your body. Your head's gonna bust off, And that's
all right. I've got a question for all of you solventless guys, all three of you guys on this channel. With a show of your shoulders, how much agitation do you need?
Oh,
Man.
Variables.
yeah.
No,
I mean,
show me with your shoulders. How much
it's what
agitation?
Oh.
what wash are we on?
You want the little
Is it
wiggles?
like this?
You
Is
on
it
the
like
first
Like
wash?
this?
No,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
would like this.
Or is it
Are you
like
on the?
We're,
Are you
we're
on
not
the
starting a
first wash
washing
or the
machine
last
over
wash?
here.
Man, you're starting to make my nipples hard. Stop
I feel like I
removing.
should be throwing dollars over here.
Now, no shit, right? No
I mean,
shit.
I'll take them.
So let me go back to real quick. Like I said, I was
First,
pissing
is
on you
it
in the
first
shower.
wash or second wash, man? If you're
Yeah,
going
no
the
shit,
first
right?
wash,
It's always the first wash. We're going for quality.
So I told you guys that I was pissing on you in the shower. I figured I'd explain the rest of that.
Thank you.
I do use ice, but I generally don't use ice in my washing machine.
yeah. Okay.
I will keep the ice, the
Okay.
water cold
The
with
reservoir?
ice because generally in the summertime. Now in the wintertime, right now I just turned the air conditioner on. It's already 35. No big deal. But in the summertime, yeah, you do unfortunately use a lot of ice in keeping your water cold.
Right.
Now I will say that once my water is cold, it's usually in that 32 to 35 degree range. When I throw the flour in and it's already spinning, I will drop a few ice cubes in there just to get the water a little colder.
Yeah.
But on that note,
Chilling.
and I think this is where the perfect little turnover is to the piece that you sent me, Brian, when we're talking about the 5-gallon washers. Because the 5-gallon washer is the only real way that you can manipulate the agitation is to fill it up more with water or less,
or the
or
ice.
more
Used,
flour.
yeah, the ice used to be like your brakes on the
Yeah,
system.
should be. Yeah, that used to. Well, that was just stupid. But
Yeah.
anyways, above and beyond that,
The ice
Hold on. Can you explain that, Pedro? I don't, as a non-ice hash maker guy, I don't think I understand what exactly you just said.
I
Okay.
think he's getting to the explanation.
Okay.
yeah,
I
it's okay.
apologize.
No, I'll go back a little bit because I understand what you're saying. So most of us at home guys, most of the guys that have watched the video with Build a Soil, most of the guys that are doing this at home are using a 5-gallon washer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many 5-gallon washers they're using. Now, these 5-gallon washers, you've seen them before 100 times. Just go to Amazon, type in 5-gallon washer, and it'll come up. It's the Costway 5-gallon washer, modified a little bit. The problem with that washing machine is when you put the water in and you turn on and it goes. There's no like, hey, slow down, Mr. Agitator at the bottom, So the only way that you can kind of manipulate that a little bit is by adding more or less water and more or less flour and more or less ice, I guess.
So it makes it kind of struggle a little bit to.
Yeah. I mean, if you're spinning,
Close it
if you're
down.
spinning a cup of water at the bottom, it's gonna fucking flip it around. But if you're spinning
It's like
3 to 5 gallons worth of water in there, it's not going to spin it as much.
Okay.
But I've always noticed, and I actually used one of these before that I just purchased randomly. But I've always thought and noticed, man, especially after using the Osprey at work, there's got to be a way to slow this down.
Yeah.
There's got to
Can
be
I take
a way.
a guess? Is it a fan speed? No, does that actually work?
Voltage regulator, I believe, right?
Not
Yeah,
the
it
fan.
works.
The fan speed one don't work. It's a special one that I had
Okay,
to fucking
okay.
buy. Like
I remember
12
having a problem with a couple of them that didn't work. I had to find one that eventually worked.
I was literally sitting here laughing, I'm like, oh man, this sounds like my second grow where I had to turn the fan down because it was just sucking like my 10 in and like collapsing my 10. I'm like, maybe that would work. I didn't think
you
it
got
would
to
actually
remember,
work.
you got to remember when we're talking, and I mean, I hate to say that on this level because most of our viewers are on this level. This is where everybody is at. Is they buy the 5-gallon washer. We don't generally have the money to buy a great big the Osprey for
Stainless
fuck's
steel,
sake, $15,000 or some shit.
24.
There we go. I think
I just
we
know
bought it was
that.
15, but yeah. Well, and that's why, and here's another segue, is you have options more than the 5-gallon washer. And I've always thought this before too, there's got to be something between the 5-gallon washer and the $20,000 machine over here.
Yeah.
So who does that? Where are they?
Pelle Polare.
There we go.
I love the
Oh.
segue. dude. I don't know.
So
this
tell
is
me,
like
what
a
do you
very-
got? What's the thing? What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? That's where I want to go.
Why do I do the equipment?
No, what first of all, what do you have available that's in the middle of all this bullshit?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, I mean, I started out where a lot of us started out with a 5-gallon machine. I had one of those, and then I got two of those, and then I got the 20-gallon thing, and then, you know, one of the reasons why I do a lot of the equipment that I do is because I can't find what I want out there anywhere else. So I'm like, all right, like now I got to do this myself. I have a platform, you guys that support me to, I know with confidence if I make something, somebody's going to buy a few of them. So it's not going to cost my whole wallet to build one of them. You know how it is if you're just one off in something. So the stainless steel thing is expensive. Obviously, it's big. It's motorized. It's $25K. I have systems that are expensive as well. The 5-gallon machine, the 20-gallon machine, they're plastic. They're bottom end vortex driven machines. I've always been a proponent of top end agitation. If you guys want to talk about that more, we could, but I'm a proponent of that. So what I've done is I've taken my Reaper and I've taken the guts of it and made it so that I can clamp it on to anybody's barrel. Right. So whatever barrel you got, if you got a brute plastic barrel, we can make you a ring to go around the top of that. And my mini Reaper sits on top of that. It's going to probably be like $5 or $6K. And it'll work on any size barrel. I see you got
We're gonna be talking, by the way. You know this, right?
Anytime you guys need anything, my door's wide open. I'm I don't want to put any pressure on anybody to.
Yes, you do. That's why you're here.
No
hey,
pressure.
man, promote that shit. Hey, where can we find you? Brian, Pelle, Polare. I'll step in right now. Where can we find you? Instagram,
Fuck it, hey, there
website,
you go.
plug all that shit. Let's go.
No pressure sales tactics, man. If you guys need it, I'm here.
Yep.
If you don't want it, I'm not going to hate you.
But where can we find it? You got to tell us where we can find it.
Because I'm seeing a lot of people in chat right now being like, that's exactly what I wanted to know, fucking Pedro. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, the speed control, the jackets, the drain kits for the machines, all the false bottoms, all that stuff. It's all on my website. The Instagram, if you guys need to ask me questions or anything like that, just shoot me a DM and I can point you in the right direction. And
what's the website and what's the Instagram?
The website is PellePolarco.com.
Excellent. And your Instagram?
And the Instagram is Pelle_Polar.
And if you're just listening, it's PELLE_POLARE. But if you're watching, you just look right under his name. It's there.
Yeah. And we got, equipment for the home level guys all the way up to the full on commercial level.
So in terms of like washer sizes, what are we talking, like 5-gallon to 50-gallon or what?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do anything
below
under 30 gallons, I would say just stick with your 5 and 20-gallon size, Bubble Magic machines. And then when you're ready to level up, you're going to take your business to that next level. Then it makes more sense to invest in some stainless steel gear. Think about how long it's going to take you to pay some of these investments off. I wouldn't say for anyone to go right out and buy full on automated gear and then
especially this time of the industry.
Yeah. I mean, I got guys sending me their business plans and it's like, it looks like a beautiful lab, dude. Don't get me wrong. It's like $1 million beautiful
3 years
facility.
ago.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to take you in this climate like 5, 6, maybe 7 years to pay that off and then maybe make some money after that.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, dial back, start small, work your way up the ladder, and I want to work with you up that ladder.
Hell yeah. I like that, man.
I'll build with you. I'm small, family run operation, just like a lot of guys. And
how many employees, even including part-time, like how many people you got working?
I got
I
got a couple artists that I work with consistently. I have a couple engineers that I work with consistently, and I have a couple of fabrication guys.
Okay.
So I rely on partners, and the rest of the shit I juggle.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. It's hard being an entrepreneur, and you want to think that you can do everything yourself, but ultimately, in terms of like scalability, expanding, doing anything more than what you're capable of yourself, you have to rely on other people. So it's good to see that you're doing that, especially with engineers and shit. Like I said, these engineer dudes, they're important.
We're tough to work with too.
Yeah,
They are.
yeah.
They're so antisocial. I don't get it.
It's the ones that like smoke weed and don't mind getting paid a few bills on some hash. Those are the ones I need around me.
Fuck yeah,
Dude, I
man.
feel you
Fuck
there.
They're
this
all like,
guy,
no,
then.
it's 15,000 K for me to engineer that for you. And I'm like, whoa, dial it back, bro. I'm just a small time hash. Like I just make hash and I
15,000 minus how many grams?
Yeah.
Bro, time out.
It's
That
right in the middle.
Cobra milk,
Dude.
mm,
Like
that
I
Cobra milk, fucking it just if you just saw it about fell off my dab tool, but shit. Sorry for the interruption.
it's all good, man.
That's perfectly okay, man.
It looked like a real good one.
Yeah, it's a knockout. It's jealousy crossed with cereal milk. And I got the cut from my boy Spartan Grown here in Michigan. He's an ex-commercial grower, gone back to the caregiver side of things. Probably does 12 hours at minimum of podcasting a week. And one of those is MBGS, the Michigan Bros Grow Show, with me on Sunday nights, and then the late session Monday nights. And I was talking to him one night, and I'm just like, hey, man, I love the Fruity Pebbles flavor, like the Trick cereal, like just anything like that.
Fake
Yeah.
fruit.
Yeah. And he's like, actually, I got a strain like that right now. You might like, and I don't even know if he had flowered it at that point. He just kind of like did the stem rub thing, And so he sent it my way, just literally handed it to me in a cup. And I've been propagating it and growing it. And yeah, that's the result of it. It's just like seriously like cereal fruit. I don't know how to describe it. It's like that cereal, man. It's like a cereal.
That's awesome, dude. Like having those special, unique terp profiles. That's how you stand out in the industry right now.
Well,
Pain in
and
the
I was
ass
looking
getting all of it out of the
for
jar, though.
Good wet one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like I got to go in with a piece of bread and like.
Dude, yeah, you gotta find a dry rosin and soak up those terps.
Yeah, no shit. That's a good idea. I got some. Ooh, that's happening, bro.
honestly,
Yeah,
I mean that's the way to do it.
It's
Honestly,
happening.
like that's what it's there for. But yeah, that so.
Oh wait, dude, I'm about to piss on everybody's milk because this is fucking not saltiness and this is saltiness.
What are you doing?
You're gonna fuck up the space-time continuum or something.
The quantum
That's like
fucking fucking
crossing
it
the
up.
streams, man.
Dude, I got this centrifuge separated fucking terpenes that are like
Oh,
That's wild.
Regroli already has too many terpenes in his shit, so
mutagenic type shit. I dip the dry shit in here every now and then just to get some of these.
Yeah.
I was just looking
Why
at
not?
centrifuges the other day because I saw the separation tech. I was like, that's kind of
yeah, you
interesting.
saw. Yeah, I got you.
Cool. It's cool to fuck with. I mean, all the little things, little artisanal kind of things you can do.
You don't know
Right,
what's going
man.
to come of it. So it's like, it's neat to experiment. I may waste $500 buying it and playing with it a
But
couple
dude,
times, but
$500. I mean, you make your money back off of what, like 7 to 10 runs? You know what I mean?
And dude, if you
You're-
don't like it, at least you didn't spend it on a fucking Xbox game and you sat there staring at it for fucking 17 days.
Producing absolutely nothing but revenue for someone else.
Fortnite
Yeah,
skins,
that.
man.
Some
It's
fucking
Fortnite
personal
skins.
anger right there, bro. Jesus Christ.
I'm a video game addict.
It's a problem.
I've never
I just-
gotten into that much.
I just set up my brand new gaming rig. It's
Oh, nice.
kind of a
Jesus
monster.
Christ. Boy,
Yeah.
this is
Monster.
much.
How many gigabytes
fucking
of RAM you
monster.
got over there?
128.
Okay. He's doubling what I got.
I
But
stopped
thought I
at
had a rig.
I stopped
Wait, I
at
think I have a
Wait, what DDR what though? And I swear to God,
whatever
if you
the
say
top of the
3,
line
I'm,
is
I'm,
right
I'm
now.
gonna boot you off.
I quit at PS3, man. The addiction got too strong. I was like, I gotta put this damn thing down.
Yeah, actually, I just booted up my PS3 for the first time in about 10 years the other day.
It works good for Blu-rays.
Yeah, that's the last reason I think I had it running was for Blu-rays.
Yeah,
But it's been that long since I've had a streaming service, I guess. I don't know.
Find better hobbies.
You know?
Yeah, the centrifuge is fun to play with, and like you said, who knows what could come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. No, I also was gonna say, what was your other new tech? Because I know you've got a couple of other new things there beyond just washing and.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah, the centrifuge thing is something I've been playing with. The decarb device is kind of unlocking some doors.
What do you mean?
What is
the
that? What
decarb
does that
device?
mean?
Yeah.
What does that
Oh,
even
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Exactly. What do you mean there?
Piqued your interest.
Well, talk to these people out here like they have no fucking idea what they're talking what you're talking about.
I've never seen a decarb vessel before. What does that mean?
Don't you just throw it in a jar and putting the lid on tight?
Something
and turning
about the oven at 225? It's
250
255?
degrees at like
525?
15 minutes, something, right? It's simple, right?
So going to college, I learned how to make cool flyers like this. That
Hell
college
yeah, dude.
education's paying off like a motherfucker. But yeah, dude, I mean, decarbon is basically what we have to do with our rosin to be able to get it into a pen, so we could do our travel pens. And everyone puts their jars into a fucking
It sucks for Growly. I know every time they do it to my rosin, I'm like, you fuckers. But
yeah. And you know, I'm over here in my house. I'm making carts, a couple hundred at a time. The things in my kitchen, because I got to watch it. My kids are sleeping. I'm worried at night. I got to get up every few hours and reset the timer and all this shit. So I worked with this guy, Andrew, from Sample Automation. He's a real smart engineer. And I said, this is what I want. Can you build it for me? And he built this fucking dope ass thing. We went through prototyping for like a year. And basically, like, instead of putting my rosin into a toaster oven and watching bubbles, I'm using a computer, I'm using software, I'm using sensors to track the variables in that jar. And then I'm able to use that data to then make changes to the temperature. If I want to crash and do jams, I would make changes.
So this isn't just an edible type decarb thing we're trying to do.
No, because you have to do a partial decarb to do your jams and diamonds, and you have to do a full decarb to do your carts. So depending on the product that you want to make, the system has a use for both products, and it just really refines the process. So now I'm able to like do some COAs on material that I ran in a toaster oven and material that I ran in my reactor, and I can see a higher level of preservation of the material. And that's my goal all the time is how can I preserve a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And next thing you know, I'm up here on the ladder because I didn't cut all those other little corners all along the way. And instead I really pay attention to the variables and the details, the minute little differences.
What are those variables that you're watching in that process?
The bubbles were really the only variable that we're able to use as a visual indicator for doneness. What percentage of the decarb has taken place. Certain percentages you need to change that temperature, like I'm saying, to jams and diamonds. If I'm trying to do carts, I'm looking for visual cues like no more bubbles. And that could be really deceiving because a lot of guys think, oh, it's done, it's ready, there's no more bubbles. And then they go and make pens and the material will either harden in the pen and won't work, or it'll crash out in the pen and won't work. So if you don't get that decarb just right, then you have issues down the road. And that's
what happens if you over decarb it, and what does that look like?
Darkened rosin, and you end up over cooking it. You'll end up with a popcorn flavor. You off gas terpenes that you don't want to off gas.
Okay.
You don't have the level of preservation. You've gone too far. You've overcooked the souffle. Would
you call that a grandma's cabin flavor?
Yeah, I guess that's a good. Yeah. That's a good. This is good nomenclature for sure.
I'm glad that caught on for you, because I've said that a few times to people and they look at me like I'm from a different planet. But if you know what that means, then you've tasted it before, and that's often what I experience, which is a kind of a disappointing thing for me.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing is like preserving the essence of the plant as it is on the day of harvest. And if I'm not able to bring those terpenes that are in that plant into whatever device you're inhaling it from, right? It kind of like, I feel like I haven't really done my job, or just creating a different product, I guess, at that point. And that's what one of the things that irks me about the rosin process in terms of putting it into pens is the fact that you have to decarb it. And
pisses me off too.
yeah, it's kind of frustrating. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be a better way is all I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. There's other ways to do it too. Like guys are doing mechanical separation and taking the terpenes and putting them aside, and then they're taking the THCA and decarbon just that, and then recombining. And I've actually found that if you do if you used our system, you'd get a better result than even doing that. But now the centrifuge tech maybe taking that up another level, because to do the mechanical separation you have to be on the plates for a certain amount of time on heat, so you're degrading those terpenes already. If I can use that centrifuge to separate the terpenes, you know, without the heat,
with no heat,
right,
now I can take those perfectly preserved terpenes, take the THCA, decarb that, and then recombine it, and then step it up.
That's where I thought the tech that I think it was Low Temp showed, by recapturing the terpenes that were lost or that were off gassed in the process of freeze drying, you know, and melting and then recollecting and then, you know, letting them settle and separate. And it was a very cool process.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the freeze dryer.
Yeah, the freeze dryer water, the freeze dryer.
That's
ice,
another.
you know?
Yeah, that's another whole part of the process that if you can up that level of preservation, like we're talking about decarbing, and that's what this system is for. The freeze dryer.
Oh yeah, it's a completely different system, but it's just separating those terpenes without heat, or with this. I know the freeze dryer has a little bit of heat, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So let's stay on the decarbing side of things for a moment, because
agreed.
When we talked with Bubble Man, he showed us a picture, and I've talked about it myself, how I essentially grew. I'm going to get this wrong. I always say it wrong. I think it's stalagmites. There's stalagmites and stalactites. There's the ones that grow from the top. I've grown diamonds from the top of my tight. I've grown stalactite THCA diamonds with terps dripping off them from the top of my vessel that I create sauce in. This vessel itself typically doesn't get over 75 degrees. At the same time, the solution itself is probably rocking at like 50 degrees because it's mostly solvent, and that butane, propane, a lot of those things are boiling off at 15, 20 degrees or so. So to keep it liquid, you have to keep it in that form. Basically, what he was saying is you're able to recollect. If you're not opening that vessel, you're recollecting all those off-gas terpenes, and they're going to recondensate and fall back into the solution. Do you agree?
I see that happening with my system for sure.
Doesn't mean it's not going to change them though. Just like
that's where
I always think about it. I always think about it like an egg, right? An egg is sealed, and at one temperature it's this, and there's nothing that has done left the egg, but from fucking out of the chicken, from out of the boiling water, there's a whole big ass difference in taste and consistency and everything. Nothing's left the fucking egg.
Human consumption,
during the decarb process, like your molecule is literally breaking. Like the THCA is breaking off the A, and it's releasing the CO2 bond, and that CO2 releases as a gas. Right, so that's why you see like a 10% loss when you do the decarb. That's all the CO2 that was a solid, and then you cooked it and turned it into a gas, and it went bye-bye. So that chemical reaction happens, and then, like you're saying, like who knows what other chemical reactions are happening in there. Whenever you cook it or add heat, it definitely changes profiles, and I've noticed, like even doing the true cold cure, big difference in flavor from if you use some heat to force that cure.
We've talked about variables there before.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting though. Like
heat changes flavor for sure.
going where Pedro was saying, if we were to collect the terpenes from the freeze dryer runoff, save those, and then you press your rosin, then you run the centrifuge tech, you separate, you keep those terpenes, you reintroduce with the other ones, then you take the THCA and run it through the reactor, and you
You're up
decarb
here.
there.
Yeah.
Then you reintroduce the terpenes after you've decarbed. Now you haven't degraded your that's why it's interesting to see all these different techs coming.
Yeah.
Superior buds. That's literally what my thought process was for making an edible that tasted like the plant, because there was no way to do it without removing the terpenes completely before I decarb the THC. Because
Yeah.
or THCA, I should say, because if I didn't decarb the THCA without the terpenes removed, I would have just burned off the terpenes.
Yeah,
and
right.
whether or not I burned them off all it doesn't matter, because I would have been changing the flavor profile regardless by cooking even some of them.
Yeah,
And
let's
so
not
that's kind of
say
my
cooking them off. Let's say changing them.
Yeah,
They're not,
mutilating.
they're not
mutilating
going
the
anywhere.
terpenes.
They're just changing big time.
Certain strains are not good to decarb and don't translate well into a cooked product. This fucking one that I have right now, Sherb Cake, is great as rosin. As soon as I put it into a pen, it's just got this weird funk to it that I don't like.
I'll tell you what, I grow a lot of like hazy type varieties, almost entirely because that's what I like, and that's what that's just what works for me. In particular, it happens
Cobra
to
milk,
be
by the way.
There you go. That's actually one of the ones that's not very similar to the rest of them, even though it does have the fruit. Most of the varieties I grow are very high in terpinolene, and so it turns out to be a very particular terpene that I really like. The profiles might be different, but they all kind of are very similar in the end. It's like an orange, it's a lime, it's a citrus of something or another, and it turns out they're kind of all just those hazy type varieties.
Yeah.
Now I've taken some of those extracts that I've grown fresh frozen, processed fresh frozen, and tried to, sign, seal, delivering, hold on to, if you will. And 3-4 years later, they, if not frozen, if not vac sealed, they will have some sort of maturation process. And that maturation process does change the flavor. Now, I want to put the caveat in there. If you do vac seal them and if you do freeze them, I swear, 4 or 5 years later, I've tested it that far later, and they do not change a damn bit. But if you're not removing the oxidation process and you're not removing the maturation process, that will happen, and it does change flavor.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what strain it is, what variety it is, or what process it is. It seems like as long as that exists in nature after it's been processed, it's going to mature, it's going to ripen. And all that being said, I notice a difference. If I give it, I don't know, maybe 12, 18 months, it's somewhere in that range. Like 6 months, I don't notice a difference. 12 months, like maybe if it wasn't stored in a cool, dry area, But at a certain point, I'm going to notice a difference. And it seems to me like they all kind of mature to a different thing. And I don't know if it's like all my hazy varieties kind of mature into a certain thing, and all the kind of OGs, maybe all the chems, like all the diesels. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe you guys can help me out here, but it seems like they all like mature to a next step, whatever that next step is from what they came from. It's like its own separate staircase.
What are we talking about?
There's definitely it's just a fruit that's ripening, man, like a banana.
That's what it seems like to me. You know what I mean?
And bananas are different from apples and pears, and they're all fruits. It's just like
a fine wine. After a while, it just slightly shifts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of them I like early. Some of them I like well cured.
Yeah,
and that's why I was
with my flour too.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Like Pedro was doing the Terp Wars review stuff, and like part of the thing that I love about those is you get to experience rosins and hash from different places that you may never have smoked before.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a judging thing, it's cool because you get to expose yourself to that. You notice your body receives certain ones differently, and mine will be different than yours. Yours will be different than his. Everyone likes it a little bit.
That's why
different.
sativa and indica's bullshit.
So bullshit. Yeah, and it's just, and the flavors of
Herbs.
life, the flavors of weed. It's really cool. Everybody's got their own favorite.
Yeah.
All right, but
So that-
I gotta step in here. We're over an
shoot.
hour in, and I can't wait any longer. Brian, I need you to define hash for us.
Oh boy, here we go.
Fine hash.
Mm.
Yeah, I put together this little thing in the front of my little book, and it's the ultimate culmination, right, of the grow of every part of the process, and it's the ultimate expression of all that goes into it. Hash is just the culmination of that whole. It's
It's the
conducting.
culmination and the expression of the plant. I fucking
Yeah.
like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
That might be the best answer we've gotten yet.
And I forget how I worded it in the book. It's like conducting a symphony, right? And if you can control all those moving parts and all those little pieces, and you can, at the end of the day, create that beautiful masterpiece, that's the ultimate hash.
I
So
mean, I
let me-
don't know if you actually defined hash, but I thought that was beautiful, dude.
I know. That's where I was going with that. So let me clarify a little bit of the question. But that was absolutely beautiful, because I think that after what you're about to answer, that would be the best answer. Is BHO hash? Is rosin hash? What is hash? When somebody says, "Hey man, let's go smoke some hash," what am I going to smoke? What are you going to, like? What is your definition of hash?
Yeah, that's when it's a general term that all those products lie under, and if someone says to me, "Let's go smoke some hash," I start asking questions, because I know it could be any of those things. And it's like when anybody comes to me for anything, I immediately start asking questions. I want to.
What is your definition?
Yeah. Well, we want to know what
When
your
I say-
definition
For me,
When I
what
say,
is-
"Bro, let's go smoke some hash," what are you wanting to go smoke?
If I invited you to go smoke some hash,
There you go.
what I would offer you would be the best solvent-free product that I could offer you.
Product, but does it have to stop at? Does it go to rosin? Is rosin hash?
Yeah, it's pressed. It's loose resin.
Now
I
Loose
we're
mean,
resin,
I could take distillate, make it into an edible, and it's going to be solvent free.
loose resin is hash. Rosin is hash. BHO rosin distillate could be considered hash. But what I would offer you would be my solvent-free, organic, single source, small batch hash.
Hash, not rosin.
Not rosin. I would offer.
Heads.
It would be
Okay.
full melt. Yeah, full melt.
Beautiful.
hash.
Okay.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, then this would be
Full melt
let's go
hash,
smoke
full
some
melt
rosin.
resonance.
Be like, let's bust out
Yep.
the rosin.
We can smoke hash rosin.
We could just
Right.
smoke hash rosin.
We can,
Let's-
yeah.
Smoke
And
hash oil.
we've asked this question on the show so many times
It's
because
a tricky one.
it is kind of a trippy one, right? Like, where
like
does hash stop, or where does it begin? Or,
Yeah.
where, because I've had people, let's go sit down and smoke some hash. And like you said, when you're saying it just socially and whatnot, it can mean any number of things, And I guess if you're going to sit down at a general sesh, I mean, I don't know.
The reason I asked this question is honestly it's a bit of a fight back against the hype of solventless, because what I hear often now is the quote unquote hash heads considering solventless rosin as hash and nothing else. And
Okay.
it's become this like elitist thing.
Yes.
And I want the reason I ask, it's fine however you want to define it, however the people in chat want to define it, however we here as panelists, however, that's totally acceptable. My kind of definition is it's just the resin that's produced by the cannabis plant. It doesn't matter how you collect it. But that's why I want to define it for people, because a lot of different people with a lot of different experience define it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And we all might have our singular definition for it, but none of us are really here in a position to make that call.
No.
But that's part of the fun of the experiment. It's
It
just
is.
seeing how all of us define it, you know. So I appreciate you answering that for us.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I'm a freaking snob, dude. So
Hell yeah, dude.
and I love BHO products. The biggest problem is the fact that, you know, like I said, proof is in the pudding, and with that stuff, it's just so easy to deceive people, and that was where I was always
And it
turned
didn't
off.
used to be. It
No, it
didn't
wasn't.
used to be until
You're right.
CRC came along.
You're
And
right.
that's I didn't know. I keep questioning whether it was just the over manufacturing of it, right? Whether it was just the commercial side of things, the commercial production of things that gave it a bad rap, or if it was specifically CRC. And I think it was CRC without people realizing it.
yeah.
And I think now we've realized it as somewhat, not a majority of us have, but I think a good portion of us in the industry have realized that's what's given it the bad rap. And it's almost like this damage has been done and there's no coming back from it. And I hope that's not the case.
With
I think-
BHO,
Yes.
honestly, 100% honestly, when I hear BHO,
Right. A
Worried.
lot of people do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even want, like, when we talk about these judging things, it's bad enough getting bad rosin.
Yeah, man.
I don't
For
want
real,
bad
though.
BHO.
Yeah.
You know what I'm like? I'm sorry. There's a big difference to me between bad rosin and bad BHO. Like,
Is there a big difference between good BHO and good rosin?
not as much as there is on the
Not
other end.
anymore.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
not as
Yeah,
much
actually,
anymore.
I agree.
No.
I agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah. It just
That's
knowing
good. Okay.
knowing you're making.
Hold on. I said this on the show. Maybe I said this on the show. I've said it on BGS before. The parabolic curve, I think it's called, of rosin is like this, right? So you've got really bad over here, you've got really good over here, and you've got kind of the center. It's like this. It's pretty narrow. And then you've got this BHO curve. And this BHO curve goes like this. It's
Mhm.
much wider
Sure,
because
sure,
you have
sure.
a lot of bad products, a lot way worse products than
Like
the
an
worst
umbrella.
solventless out there.
Yeah.
You know, but I believe that you can actually get a lot better products. Was it this side or this side? A lot better products than you can on the solventless side because BHO is capable of quite literally processing a wider variety of cannabis strains. Now, you know, one for one, we can argue that, but the fact that it has the wider variety, I think, gives it that wider margin like that. Again, the other side of the spectrum is just as true, in which there's a lot more bad products on the BHO side. And I think that's in part where the bad rap comes from.
I just want to jump in and say fuck you on this Clementine consistency as well.
Dude, I just popped some seeds from some old Clementine genetics. Clementine's a special strain, dude.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Oh,
I
it's
want a cup with that, baby.
It's
you
got
guys are watching me live. What this fucking reaction from the lemon orange peels about to fucking just grab me by the pooper.
and it's
Yeah.
like a candy orange. It's not like the trop orange that everyone has.
No, yeah, it's
Charge-
different.
Yeah, it's a different candy, sweeter.
Man, the trop C that I've been fucking with up at Eden,
Dude,
is
It's
just,
phenomenal, bro.
Dude.
I just
Hey,
did
can I
crop
just
of
say
that.
that has
fire.
played a part, Pedro, in my mind shifting on solventless.
Nice, good.
I'm not kidding you. Like my whole attitude towards solventless in terms of like the flavors that were capable has shifted a notch in your direction
That's awesome.
because I haven't experienced that flavor like you were able to provide in that jar that I drove out to Colorado to pick up from you. You know, it was. I mean, honestly, man, props. I can't say it enough. It makes me want to drive back for more. You know,
we can work on that.
I want to work on that too. The Clementine washed well.
The Clementine, I'm over here smoking straight. So
Clementine does not wash well, bro.
back to that.
Uh,
I don't like calling this BHO.
Okay.
this is what is your tribe? And we call it, it's not solvent, is solvent based. It's, what the fuck
It's
was the word?
hydrocarbon based.
Hydrocarbon based. Okay.
Yeah. Because it is a tri, so I use a tri-blend of solvents, so it's not technically BHO, it's like a THO, a tri-blend. That sounds stupid, and I don't want to make any more names, so I just call it a
We
hydrocarbon
can
blend.
make as many as we fucking want, dude. I make
Yeah,
I
dude.
keto
know,
now.
but people get confused, and then we got to start labeling.
That's why we
things
have
differently, and-
podcasts.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's part of like being an artist, man. You can kind of create your own format.
I know. I never saw myself as an artist or
You
a
are.
collector of
Well,
art.
dude,
or-
You don't see yourself as a bro. You need to look in the mirror underneath it. I don't know. You need to look at from everybody else's perspective out here. If you don't
artist.
look at your fucking self as an artist after fucking producing that,
Dude, yeah.
I mean, I just grew the plant and processed it, man. I didn't create those genetics like someone else did. I don't know. It's just one of those
that's
things
where
where
that's where the artist comes in.
Yeah, it's what you do.
Somebody
with
else can give you the paint.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's what you do.
You
with
putting it on that fucking paper, bro.
What you do with the
I don't know.
genetics.
I just feel more like a technician than I do an
Nah.
artist. I feel like I'm operating equipment. I will be like I'm creating art.
No,
I'll be
If you-
honest. That's just
Do
I,
you, do you
I
grow?
highly disagree.
But you're
You grow
taking
the
care of the
plant?
plant, you're handling it, you're
Yeah, you grow
you're
the
treating it with the respect it needs in order to come out with the final
I've
product.
even said this. I wanted to ask this, Hetty Boy, the guy, we actually had him on a couple episodes ago.
3-4.
And I said I was gonna start asking some hash makers this just out loud. Do you, Brian, and we can actually go to Buds too, but after one person answers, it almost ruins it. Do you think that A, music and or B, more importantly, dancing makes better hash and rosin?
Vibration and frequency are definitely important factors to consider.
Now you're going. Fuck. I'm talking shake your booty, bro. I'm talking rump shaker. Because in the hash room, man,
He just wants
there's
an excuse
always
to work while he's washing.
music going. There's always, and for me,
Your energy, yeah. I don't know, maybe a little bit
you
of the
walk in the room, you might see some twerking, bro.
yeah. I don't know.
While you
Man.
work.
You're having a good time, and you're like positive vibes or
Yep.
in the product somehow.
I was saying, I bet you a lot of people would say that, yeah, you're gonna make better, and I don't know why, but I feel like the positivity anymore. I actually said in a post a while back, man, if I ignore it anymore, then I'm ignorant.
Yeah.
You just I've seen so many, and I'm not like getting on this train of dancing in the hash room makes better hash. It's more of just a comical fucking thing. But man, if you ignore some of these positive things that people are doing, and these what I used to consider weird positive, things, it's fuck, dude. It's really crazy. Like speaking to yourself in the mirror in the morning, like brushing your teeth with the other fucking hand, like these weird things. Just they do weird things. I guess
I'll tell you
does that
what.
make sense?
If you're dancing your booty and you're having a good fucking time, that means you're in the groove. When you're in the groove, you're gonna nail it. You're gonna fucking shift from
That's what
second
I'm
to third,
saying.
banging the gears. Yeah, dude. Versus like you're hating your job and you're like, fuck that bag, and you'll like shake it after.
Fuck this one. 30 more minutes. Fuck you.
It's like, yeah, your attitude makes a big difference. What do you think, Superior? This guy's coughing his ass off.
I know he's dying.
Yeah, I
hit this
just finished
thing.
dabbing.
Hell
No, it's mood always translates to what you're
Yeah.
doing, for sure. It doesn't matter what you do. I sit behind the computer half the day and got to be happy. So music helps. It makes the
Chopping.
day go. Yeah, you can just same when I'm in the hash room, standing there freaking stirring a pot for 10, 15 minutes at a time. Got to have something to keep your body warm.
Yeah, dude, totally. And getting into that groove, it's like that's one of the best things about being an artist, even if you don't consider yourself an artist. If you get into that groove, whatever you're doing, you're an artist in that thing.
Yeah.
If you ever fucking find yourself in a groove, you're arting.
Yeah, it's definitely probably my only creative outlet. I don't really do anything artsy, crafty, nothing like that. That's my wife's department, you know.
Got you, man.
I'm definitely the engineer side, but that's what I liked about what I'm doing and just logging data. Looking at what you were doing, a lot of it, and just kind of trying to scale it back, right?
Gotcha.
Like we were talking earlier about ice. Excuse me, I actually kickstart my system with ice, same way Pedro does.
Yeah.
I dump a whole shitload of RO ice right into the RO reservoir.
Yeah, man.
I pre-chill the stainless, get it ice cold. The first batch of water, get some ice in there, get it down, everything to temperature. Then the system will continue to run at temp.
Yeah.
But I don't have 24 hours to let that shit cool down because I didn't put, a 2-ton AC unit behind for my chiller.
Yeah, dude. No, that's the chilling vessel tech. I did that for a long time until I was looking at the chillers and all that stuff that's on the market. I'm just always like, cleanliness is always a thing for me. And if you look at like RO is actually pretty corrosive, and
yes,
even on stainless steel, like it'll start having an effect over a long period of time. And with those chillers, the ones that you pump water through and it cycles through back into your tank, I never felt comfortable getting
me
one.
neither.
So
Nope. So I'm running a glycol chiller. I've got a dual loop system.
Hell yeah.
Insulated trunk lines.
There you go.
Then, so it keeps my RO tank down to whatever I want it to, and then also the hash vessel. And I can independently turn them on or off.
Yeah, same thing I have set up too. It's a bigger investment, but obviously, like
it is.
But
it's super cool,
dude. It is super cool, and it's also like, after all the years of busting fucking ice around and dealing with all this bullshit, like not having to deal with ice at all. Like you come in, the water's freezing cold.
Exactly.
The fucking machine, like everything's just like, let's get the flour out and let's just start
washing.
Yeah, we're just mixing. Like
I'm not recirculating water yet. I'm still not recirculating my wash water.
No, I don't either, and I never plan on it.
I fresh every time. I've got a big RO system, 175 gallons. So
if you find yourself, yeah, dude, some states like you have to be conscious of your water. Like California, we were always pretty conscious of the water. So if I was recycling, it would be on the last washes.
Right. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, on the first wash, absolutely not.
Yeah.
On subsequent washes, yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I live on the largest freshwater source in the U.S. So
yeah, dude, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Sitting on all the fresh water I ever.
And it's even here at the base of the mountains here, we have really clean fresh water here.
Good. Yeah. One of the seminars, someone we were talking about water, and this dude was like, I use my well water straight from the well, and it's like, it's fresh as shit. I'm like, bro, fucking no, dude, you gotta filter that shit. Like,
I have badass well water, and I still run a full RODI system.
Just because there's bacteria and shit that you don't want to be smoking that
UV
shit.
blasting it. Yep.
Yeah, do your UV for sure. $60 for a UV filter. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it makes sense, especially on well water. It's even with my RO, the way I was running it initially, I could tell the difference in the water after a winter melt, when the snow would melt. I live in a pine forest. It runs off acidic. My well water comes out super acidic after a melt. And the RO reflected that. It was, rough on the system. So flipping it back now with the RODI, and I'm at 0, and I come out, 7 pH. Every time, much easier to deal with.
Yeah, totally.
But even on that stainless, like you said, you got to be careful with it. Don't let it stick. Clean it up.
Yeah, and the cleaner your water, the colder you can get it without it freezing on you too.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's important for clean water.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I joined the conversation, but I just reset my brain.
We're just talking about clean water, man.
Oh, I know. I was
clean water, clean hash. I actually wanted to do a test at some point. I want to put water from my well, from my RO, and then from my RODI on freeze dryer trays and just run the freeze dryer. see what ends up on the tray at the end.
That's
'Cause
interesting.
I ran
did
my RO through my humidifier,
Yeah.
and I blast white shit all over my room. So
Yeah, I did what you're saying, and I posted up some pictures, and there was like little white powder residue for sure from the straight well water that wasn't there in the RO.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's wild.
calcium, probably mostly, I would think, like that white powder, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely some other shit in there.
It's amazing what you can see when you just freeze dry it and see what's left.
Yeah,
You don't want that in your hash.
No way, dude. No way. And you were talking about the terpenes that are left in the freeze dryer water earlier. Like, if you just are able to control the machine a little bit better to not get the terpenes in the water in the first place, that's the better path to go down than trying to reclaim the terpenes out of the water.
Totally.
I feel like that's a little unclean for me, to be smoking some freeze dryer terpenes. That's
Especially, I mean, I've smelled some of that water and it smells great, but I've also seen some specks of oil and crap that gets flushed through.
Yeah.
Man, hearing this conversation really makes me think of the differences between a home grower and a commercial grower, because or processor. I guess processor more so in this case, because you're just trying to find workers. Because I don't wash the hash anymore for eating up there. I press the rosin pretty much, and just process the hash. But finding someone to go into the hash room confidently and quote unquote replace me, or do the work that I would do, has been painstaking, because there's just no one. Like I said, having these conversations make me think of it, because there's a very, not very rare, but there's rare amount of people that actually think about these things and think about, like, when you're doing them, how can I make this better? Oh fuck, I got my water smells. And bro, as a hash maker, I'll ask both. I guarantee I know the answer. Y'all ever drank your water, your hash water?
Fuck yeah, dude. Kidding me? Used to say
There's a lot of people that I don't know would go to those fucking steps.
that's why we started testing for the terpenes in the water, and the test for flavonoids is coming. Like, one of the guys that was in that first study. One of the cool things about my platform is I can post some shit up if I have an idea and people will chime in like, yo, I tried that, or I have access to this, and it's cool because I'm able to take it. So with that, like back in the day, we took some wash water, and one of these guys out in Chicago actually took it to I forget the name of the lab, but the guy was super cool. He did all the tests for free. I'll tell you guys the name of the lab, and you can probably contact him. He's out there. He'll do your shit. And he found no terpenes in the water, and he's like, there's something else in there that we don't have a palette for and we can't test for. And then these guys in Florida picked up the idea, and they were like, maybe it's flavonoids. We're developing a test for flavonoids, and soon it'll start being on some of the packaging and shit. So maybe
That's
there's
really cool.
Yeah, so that was like something that came out of that, and it was like, something that'll definitely affect everybody at some point. Like, I don't know anybody that's testing for flavonoids and has that on the side of their packaging yet.
Yeah.
Probably, could I just, I actually am just jumping in. I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but I have to say, at last I checked, Alaska was the only state in the union that required terpene testing. And that is such a bummer to me, because I think that is more important than most of the other cannabinoids.
Yeah.
To have that profile listed on there.
We test for all our terpenes. I don't know whether or not we provide the list on the packaging.
It's not regulated, but some companies will do that.
Yeah, these guys were in Vermont. They came to one of the seminars, and he's a legal brand out there, and he's got tons of terpenes and cannabinoids on the back of the vape pack that he gave me. It's dope, but I still don't see flavonoids on there, and we all know that they're there. Just there's no test for it that exists until it'll eventually.
Hey, can I just say another disappointing bit of news here in Michigan is my favorite lab testing facility, the first one here in Michigan to exist, as far as I'm aware, the one that's worked with caregivers the longest, and as far as I understand, the most integral lab in the state of Michigan is, as of about a month ago, unfortunately closed down. No
Really?
longer in existence is PSI Labs, and that is a huge, huge problem, in my opinion. It goes to show a lot of issues, I guess, in the regulated market, and the fact that they can no longer exist is a massive, massive problem. So I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but to see, um, to see anybody closing their doors is a disappointment. But to see someone that you've worked with is an even bigger disappointment. And then to see someone that I think is really should be, at least in this state, a pillar in our industry to I guess go down is really a bummer, man. And so I think we'll probably experience a little bit more of that here in the future, but man, it just sucks. It just sucks. So I want to share that with those of us
Yeah,
out here in Michigan that are watching.
that's fucking shitty, man. Try to stay alive today. It's tough, man.
Yeah, like I honestly, I don't even know where to take my next lab test. To I don't know, like, because I'm not going to name names, but I mean, one of the biggest like recalls in the history of the cannabis industry was in the state of Michigan because a lab testing
Shoot.
facility failed to, I don't know, fill in the blank, man. Like there's, that might be an ongoing lawsuit. I have no idea at this point. I think it
That
seems to be like
sucks.
just
Yeah,
an
no,
open-ended question.
you gotta be on point and reliable if you're gonna be a testing facility for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the
Ethics.
one.
Ethics are missing, man. It's one of the biggest things in any business, is ethics. People go to school for ethics 101 and shit, and like
I took it. I literally had to take
took it
business
good.
ethics 101 as part of my degree.
Tell me if I'm wrong. The cannabis industry is missing it, like bigger than any other industry.
If I could recommend one class to this industry, it's business ethics 101. It is
just a
blowing
little,
my
please.
mind the fact that it doesn't exist in 90% of this industry that I've come across.
Like, where are you, man? There's just the level of disrespect and just slap in the face, fuck youery that goes on, dude.
Honestly, a big part of the problem is we come from this like kind of gray, black market, whatever type of, we're
It's better there.
Yeah, I mean, like you don't
It's better
have to
there.
have ethics there, and so if you want to
You're
step
the king of your own domain.
Yeah, but the problem is having those people transition. What people expect is those people transition into this regulated industry, and it's not possible for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But some of the reason is the fact that they just don't belong, and that's kind of up to them. It's not like that's not like a regulation standpoint. That's like a moral question.
Yeah, a lot of the old school, growers and like the whole scene was like it was illegal, and a lot of the guys that were growers were not like super ethical guys.
Yeah.
They did time. A lot of felons growing weed. I got busted 3 times for weed. People looked down on me like, oh, you've been arrested. It's like, well, what the fuck, man? It was just weed. Like, why is this a big deal?
Right, especially now looking back,
Yeah. And
No, when I stood on,
get over that.
It's better in the gray market. It's better in the black market. Sitting where I sit, I can say that for sure because I know my processes. I know where I turn left and where I turn right and where I don't cut corners. Well, man, when you start really getting into and that's why a lot of these questions, I see both sides of it, man. When you start getting into the commercial industry, when you start scaling things up, especially on a big, I mean, I'm not talking just 100 plant count. I'm talking thousands of plant counts. it's not that the ethics go out the window. It's just that a lot of processes have to be changed and or and then to keep the same product, to keep the same quality at the end.
It's hard.
After changing all of the the SOPs that you have to scale up, man, it's a tough fucking dance. It's a really tough fucking dance.
Here's my answer to that, right? Keep both. Like, yeah, you gotta do that to run on that side of the fence. You gotta cut those corners, obviously, right? And really, in this industry in cannabis, like you gotta be on the street too. So you gotta exist in both black and the legal. Somehow you gotta find a way, and you gotta just do that dance.
I'm not just talking about being there though. I'm talking about like dancing. Like I'm talking about literally the SOPs that have to just think of harvesting. Like we were talking.
That whole that's one product, and we grow over here for that stuff, and then over here, like we're doing our premium shit is over here. We come in with white fine gloves on. Over here, we're making our money and we're running our commercial facility. We sing and dance,
and that's the corner that I'm talking about being cut right there.
Yeah, you have to cut those corners.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
But then,
Pedro,
in my mind, you got to have the premium product too, because you can't just bang out the booth. You got to also have the good shit, and then also do the trim run stuff, and then also make the temple balls, because all of those products can be made with so many different parts of the cured plant. Whether it's old trim or fresh fro, there's different things that you can make, and if you don't, that's where I feel like that's where you're gonna fall off. Like, you have to be able to catch all the fish in the legal side. You can't just be like, we have to cut corners, we have to get this done, we have to do this, because that's only one product, that's only one customer. The other guys are looking for the good shit. So in my mind, the way to succeed in the legal facility would be to have all those product to catch.
Diversification.
Yeah, dude.
See, there's another variable. Are you in the industry on the commercial side? Are you just growing? Are you growing and sending your not you personally?
Right.
Are you growing and then sending your material to another facility to process? Are you growing and processing all in the same facility?
Ideally.
So there's a lot of different variables there, and then it comes into play manpower, and capital.
Yeah.
A lot of things come into play, and people just trying to get into this industry. If you don't want a big bunch of fucking investors jumping down your back and wanting fucking walkthroughs every 2 weeks, then it's rough. And you really you don't want to cut corners, kind of do. Is that
when you get investors, when the corners get forced to get cut?
They really do, man. And then you got to do your best to keep the quality. Having had same, just like I'm talking about with the bucker, the automatic bucker versus I wanted them to go in and manually fucking bucket, because I manually fucking bucket sounded great, because I knew that my percentages, my yield would be increased if they followed these steps. But because of manpower, because of this, you have to weigh the pluses and minuses. How much am I going to have to pay this fucker versus how much am I going to lose with using this machine
versus how much maybe more you'll make.
And you do all this work and you're like, well, okay, use the goddamn thing because it makes more sense.
Yeah.
And it's all variables on how big of a facility you have and how much blah 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 variables.
Dude, a 5% ROI on a $500,000 facility is a lot different than a 5% ROI on a $20 million facility.
The economy of scale is insane.
Yeah.
If I save 10 cents a unit going out of my facility,
just on packaging, dude. Just on packaging. Yeah. You can do that all day long on a packaging. So think about the other ways you can cut that cost, whether it's on labor, whether it's on utilities, whether nutrients.
How
Mhm.
the salt that you're
material.
using, the water you're using,
Yeah.
the filters you're using, the
Yeah.
fucking everything, dude.
And
It's
then
a
if-
race to the fucking bottom.
And then
Yeah.
if you're not controlling that, if your facility is so big that you're not controlling that, again, you're delegating to that somebody. And just like I talked about before, now you're gonna find somebody who's gonna fucking essentially replace you and do what you would do without you having to fucking be there.
It's so
Yeah.
hard.
You know?
It's so hard.
Just expanding in anything. And dude, like as a hash maker, I totally feel what you're saying. And then like now that I'm doing the equipment stuff and like it's a legal thing and all that shit, and I'm like, I can't do all this stuff myself. And then as soon as I have someone come and start helping me with stuff, it's the same thing with anything, man. A guy that owns a sandwich shop probably goes through the same fucking
Probably.
I go through it on my day job. It's trying to find someone that does what I've been doing for a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to instill that passion and experience and
And
care.
the thought, and just
And also
to
letting
not-
them be themselves a little bit too. That's the
that's
hard.
kind of where I'm getting at, is to not go into this, because I've trained a few now in the washroom that just get there and they're like, all right, cool, Pedro taught me, now I'm going to do Pedro's deal. And I'm like, well, that's not what I want. I wanted to teach you and give you the passion for you to take the fucking hash out of the machine, off the tray, and go scope it and take pictures of it.
Yeah, man.
And then write down your RPMs and your water temperatures and record all of this information that you may not even fucking need later on, but you have it.
Yep.
You know,
Dude, what you just said is like the thing that I love the most about doing what I do on like the education side of things and doing the classes is I like preach that so much about like the quality, and I try to instill that passion into everybody more than anything else. I'm not trying to sell equipment and all that shit. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm here with the fishing poles for you, but really like I want you, like that's where I find the most gratification and satisfaction is like seeing someone that really picks that up and takes it and is like, you see them blossom into this, like they really love hash, and it's like turns into this whole next level thing. It's like, dude, that was dope to watch that, because I did that. I went through that process too, and now watching you go through it and knowing that I like helped you.
Yep.
It's like being a dad, man. You get it. Like,
And I mean, if you're doing it from the beginning, like it's different. Again, if you're just working in a processing facility, this part of this conversation doesn't make any fucking sense, seriously and unfortunately.
yeah.
But if you're in there, if you've had your hands in the dirt, if you've fucking helped the pheno hunt, if you've done all of that, and even more so, in your personal garden, if you've just there again, we could define single source, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Exactly. Should we do that here real quick?
Like saying Beetlejuice in the
To me, let's do it. Let's fucking go right there. Brian, what is single source?
I would say single source would be you had control over every aspect of the final product.
Had
Who did?
control of or
An
did,
investor group did, or like an individual, or what?
right?
I would say that you had literal control over every aspect of the final product.
Like you were
as in-
delegating it, or you had your hands on it?
and you as in one person?
It was done your way, the way you would do it. Maybe it necessarily wasn't you doing it, but it was done your way.
Is there like a limit to how much delegation you can do? Because what if I'm delegating this job to 10 people and they delegate that to 10 people and they
Good
delegate
question.
that to 10 people? Then we've
Good.
got 1,000
I
people
like that.
working on a growth.
Yeah, and this is where like
Maybe more.
single source and then small batch kind of is another add-on to this
Fair enough.
conversation. Would be
Okay, I
say,
like it.
right. So I think like single source would be you wore the hats of all the departments and you had some minions under you. It's up to you how far you want to go with that level, right? As long as you had full control of it the whole way, everything, then I would say that's single source. Small batch, I would probably call it probably like 20 lights, 30 lights maybe at the biggest for a small batch.
Of like
And
of
then
a
there's
particular.
micro batch. would be like maybe 1 to like 20 lights.
But are you saying of a harvest or of a like size grow?
Of your grow, of your operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess of a harvest of a crop. Yeah. Like
To me-
Because that could be a grow too, right? If they had like
Yeah.
one flower room of 20 lights or something, right?
for sure. Yeah. I mean, a small batch like crop, a small batch product would.
I ran a 19 lighter before. I definitely wasn't considered, anything bigger than micro,
Yeah, I mean, I have one light right now. I've had facilities that had 100 lights. I worked at this place in fucking Palm Beach or Palm Springs out there that had like fucking 1,000 lights. It was the biggest retarded sized place I ever saw. I was like, this is the
Palm
worst,
Springs.
the worst weed I ever saw in my life.
Where are you getting the water?
Dude, it's crazy out there. But yeah, there's definitely different levels
What are they
to
just
it.
growing on the golf courses? I don't get it.
See, for some reason, I like and appreciate the hard lines, and I think for me, there's 3 ones that I can think of right here, cold cure in a fridge, fucking period. We can get it at temperatures, and yes, we can, blah, 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 blah. Single source, one fucking person. If your wife watered one night, sorry, not single source, true single source anymore. And what the fuck was the third one? I'm sorry. If we're gonna draw fucking hard lines, we're gonna draw fucking hard lines. And
Gotta
That's
be
the wrong
done.
place to draw a hard line, bro.
Gotta be
yeah,
done.
I'm sorry. It is what it is. And
That's
and
crazy.
hash,
Dude, I gotta stop you. That sounds elitist as hell, bro.
it is. And
You gotta
hash
keep-
is
you gotta keep the
unadulterated
product.
heads. Hash is unadulterated heads. Period. It's just I feel like, and I'm not saying, I feel like there needs to be a line in the sand.
There
I'm gonna
does.
stop you because that's not where the line is.
You have to
It might
set
not
the bar
be,
high.
but to
You have to set
me,
the bar high. You have to be snobby.
I think, where do you think the line is? Where do you think that is incorrect?
I think it's somewhere in between what Brian said and what you said. I think if you want to go on vacation for a weekend and you are not automating your system and want to rely on someone to come in and water your plants for you, that does not make it not single source. If you want to run a caregiver grow and maybe you're sick and you send your wife in to go water the troops, that does not make it not single source. Maybe you grew too many plants outdoors and you literally won't be able to harvest them all if you don't bring in a couple of your friends for pizza and beer. That does not make it not single source. I think what makes it not single source is saying, hey, I grew this and now I'm sending it to someone else to process it. If you grew it and you processed it, I think that's what makes it single source.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to sell it at the same spot. You could go to 100 different dispensaries or whatever the market is you're in. But I think it doesn't have to have necessarily just 10 fingers on it. And that's coming from someone that puts only 10 fingers on it. Okay.
I would agree with you.
I just think it's pretty clear in the
And then there's
words.
small batch. Like I think Pedro, you're talking more about like a small batch now too on top of it.
I mean, I think that single source is. I think that there's a top, there's a cap, because if my definition of single source is literally, sorry, you don't go on vacation because this is fucking single source, right? That's sorry. If I have to hire someone to come in because of my grow is too big, because I can't harvest, because it's not single source.
Okay.
And it's at that point in time, it's probably not small batch.
Yeah, I would say that would just not be small batch. And I would say for single source, if you were buying flower from someone else, that's not single source anymore. If you had someone that you were able to like even dictate some of the stuff, but he was always adamant on using certain nutrients and certain IPMs and shit that I was like, I don't want that. Then okay.
When I came from growing back here and doing as much as this even little grow requires, when I took it over and Dizzy started just not going in here, I took very big pride in having done 100% of the work.
It is, yeah.
Where is my title? Where's my quote? Where I think that's single source.
You don't get one, bro. That's called
I
being
think I
a
do.
farmer.
I
No,
think I
that's called
do.
being a farmer, bro.
I disagree. If I'm doing everything from starting to it's not being, if you're a small,
But
then there's a
here's the
single
thing.
source farmer.
Your pride
like that
doesn't
needs its own
fucking
category.
matter in terms of a title or in terms of what the customer is
I
buying.
disagree.
Your pride only matters to you. What matters to the customer is what's in that product. And if what's in that product is only those 10 fingers or those 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, if that's what makes that different, then that's what makes that different. Not because you put a fucking title on it because someone else told you could put that title on there, dude.
I just think if you're doing something in 100% yourself, then that holds more water than having delegated any of it.
Bro, I am in the same exact position as you, and I feel you 100%. It does make a difference, but only to you as the farmer, man. It's not making a difference to really anyone else. I wish I could say it does, but there's very few people out there
I could
that
give
really
you
care.
a pretty sizable list of people that would disagree with you.
Yeah, I would say there's a good.
Bring them out, man. I encourage it. Listen,
a lot
I'm
of
not
them are
trying to
probably here in
discourage
chat.
it.
There's a lot of like those.
I
elitist-
live for the farm to table restaurants, bro. Trust me.
Honestly, Pedro, I think it needs its own category. What you're talking about, dude.
I think it does too. Then that's what I'm asking. What is my
For
category?
sure. It would be. We need to create its own genre.
Let's call it a 8
10
fingers
fingers.
and 2 thumbs.
Call it the 10-finger hash, dude. Something.
Yeah,
I
the
just
10
think
finger.
single source.
Super small, single source, like single hat,
And it was sourced
single-handed,
single-handedly. Yeah.
single-handed small batch.
Wait, can I only wash with one hand then?
Well, no, single.
That's up to you.
I mean, I guess if we want to start defining it as in singular hand.
I'm just teasing at this point, but
I mean, I'm single source.
No, I'm going
You
down the
won't
same
even go
road.
there. I use one hand a lot too.
You got to be ambidextrous in this game, bro. That's the
Brush
whole.
chicken with your left teeth,
Dude,
with your
and
left
that's-
hand.
yeah.
once in a while.
I think that's what makes I think that's what makes the difference, man. It's the ability to do something, single source, single handedly in the and those that don't, like, because you could still be a great hash maker and just use someone else's grow.
Well, and here's the other
You
thing.
could still be a great grower and have someone else produce great hash, because guess what? It's fire in, fire out. So it takes the tandem there.
Yeah.
But if you
and I think
have
that
those
goes-
abilities to do it yourself,
Yeah.
yes, I agree that is something special. And yes, I agree that is single source. What I disagree with is if I have one other hand come in here, because then it could start arguing and saying, well, guess what, dude? Automation means you're not single source.
You're right. I
It's just
understand.
like it's again, we're talking lines here. There's very fine lines.
It'd be hand watered, single source.
And we could get into this.
like
And again, we could get into the same crazy arguments with cold cure with hash. We could get into the same exact
glass.
and
you get into it in
everybody's
glass,
going to
bro.
have, and everybody's going to have different opinions, and some are going to be very strong.
Dude,
but
I thought about doing
there
like
needs to be a fucking definition.
I almost did like a definitions category in one of these
And
booklets, but
who's the man?
A glass.
never-
Nobody agrees.
It ain't
It
us,
would
bro.
never
It
fly.
ain't fucking us.
it would never fly, dude. It would
No.
just cause ultra
It would
ultra
cause. Put a
controversy.
post up. Do it. Put a post up. Watch what happens.
You're
did
better
about
off
this.
just
I saw
spelling
you,
it
bro.
out.
I did about
as
the heat cure thing.
I saw that one. Yeah.
single farmer processed by, spell it out on it instead
Yeah,
of
That's-
I mean, if you
not
really, if
everyone
you
has-
want us to
And,
take it,
and here's the other thing. I don't think that necessarily dictates a higher quality, because if you're single source and you're growing a couple plants and doing it really, really, really small versus single source and you're fucking got a big greenhouse out here and you got so much shit going on that your plants are neglected,
Right.
and so single source doesn't necessarily mean better by any
Right.
means.
Right, for sure.
So I just think there
Yeah.
needs to be a
But
fucking
shouldn't it-
marketing.
but
It just
shouldn't it-
becomes marketing taglines.
It
at that
should
point.
probably. I mean, in ultimate terms. I mean, but I guess then you're getting a tag for Now, are you good single source? Are you bad single source? Are you medium? Are you boof single source? Are you? Does it even matter? Now does it
But
even?
are we gonna give you that tagline single source if you're both like if you just got boof? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying. I don't know.
you could like
I mean, I guess
legally
technically by that
define that.
definition, yes.
Right,
If you
right.
did it by yourself, now, yeah, you're
And
single
it
source.
might be small batch craft, you know what I mean? But like, whose freaking craft are you doing? Like,
Then it kind of really
you know?
matters. Then it
That's
kind of
when your
really
skill
matters
really
if it's
shows.
single source. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, and that's where your skill really shows if you're just doing it all yourself.
Exactly.
Like it's just it's obvious.
Like if I do it on the commercial scale, I know we're getting it close here. If we're doing it on the commercial scale here, then I can throw out my growing skill because that dude's better than me over there, and now it's not single source. You know.
Well, and
Go for
that's the thing, right? Like you could be a great hash maker and a great grower, but if you have an excellent grower and another guy that's or person that's an excellent hash maker, you might
Better
just get
situation.
a better product, even though they're not single source, right? And that's
100%.
where I'm going to leave it tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Pelle Polare,
Cheers,
we
everybody.
really appreciate you joining us for this 16th episode of Variables.
Give him some
And,
plugs real quick.
Yeah, Pelle, tell us where you're at. Throw us out the socials, the website, where we can find the newest products, all that good stuff.
Yeah, the Instagram, pellepolar.com. It's pellepolarco.com is the website. The Instagram is Pelle_Polar. And I appreciate the conversation and you guys having me. It's been a good time. Love talking about hash.
Hell yeah, man.
Good to have you,
You can
man.
find us every Friday night, 11 o'clock Eastern time. And Spotify, all those other places. Check us out.
Oh yeah.
See you next Friday.
Be good, you guys.
Take care, everyone.